So therefore, our need to attach, to connect with somebody who will take care of us, is absolutely life essential. Without that, we don't survive. And we need that connection throughout our development, and we need that connection throughout our lives. So all our lives, we want to be attached to other people. We want to be loved, we want to feel loved, we want to be loved. That's a biological drive for attachment. So that's our big need, because human beings would not have survived, not just their infancy, but as a species we wouldn't have survived, because nature was so harsh and threatening and difficult to extract living from, that human beings never would have evolved except because they were connected to one another and supported one another. They lived in groups and communities that looked after each the other. This is our nature. There's actually this myth in this society that human beings are competitive and aggressive and selfish and individualistic. It's not how it is. We're actually wired to be connected. So that's our nature as human beings, so that's how we survive. So we're wired to attach, to be taken care of, to take care of others. That's how we're wired. In the case of the child is not wired to take care of others. He or she is programmed to be taken care of because she's so helpless. So we have that need to attach for the sake of survival. And then we have another need. And that other need is for authenticity, to be ourselves. And that means to be in touch with ourselves, to be in touch with our gut feelings, to be in touch with our emotions, and to be able to express them. That's what it means to be authentic. Authentic simply means to know who you are here and to be able to express it. Now, so many of us lose our capacity, or we dull our capacity to be authentic. But that's a big need that we have. Why is authenticity a big need for human beings? Because again, without that we don't survive. At least during evolution we wouldn't have survived. Because faced with the dangers of nature, you have to be truly in touch with yourself in order to survive. It wasn't so much the thinking that helped us survive, it was being in touch with ourselves. The thinking came along later. I mean, think about it. When the caveman is sitting outside his lair, enjoying the sunset, along comes the saber-toothed tiger, you know. Now the caveman sitting there watching the sunset, all of a sudden sees the saber-toothed tiger. If he starts thinking about it, I wonder, is this tiger friendly or is it hungry? Is he coming towards me to make friends, or is he coming because he wants to have dinner? By the time he figures it out, he's dinner. He's got to be in touch with his feelings, and his feelings are telling him, danger, you better hide. So not being authentic is not to be in touch with ourselves. So that's a big need, to be authentic. And you all have that need, we all have that need, and when we don't retain our connection with our authenticity, we suffer. And you all know this. So why do we give it up? We give it up if we have to. And why do we have to? Because in this society particularly, we have to give up our authenticity very often to maintain our attachments. So that if a child is sad, but the parents can't handle sadness because it threatens them too much, then the child will suppress the sadness and always be cheerful and nice. We're supposed to be happy. Well, if you're supposed to be happy in order to be accepted by your parents, then you will suppress your sadness and you won't be in touch with it. You're always one of these cheerful, nice people who get cancer 50 years later. if your parents can't handle anger, let's say your mother and father come from homes where there was a lot of rage, so the emotion of anger is very threatening to them. So when a 1.5-year-old child gets angry about something, the parents feel threatened. Oh, good little boys don't get angry. Then the child will suppress the anger, not deliberately. It's not a conscious decision. The brain will do it as a way of making you fit in with your environment. So that the suppression of the self, the suppression of the authentic self then, is actually your coping mechanism to survive in that particular environment. Because in order to survive, you have to stay connected to the parent. So if your parents can't handle your emotions, you'll suppress your emotions in order to maintain your attachments. So that's what happens, is that in the battle between authenticity and attachment wins every time. And then becomes programmed into you. So then 25 years later, your friends want to do something that you don't want to do. But if you say you don't want to do it, they're not going to be your friends. And you're still going to say, okay, not consciously, but you're going to say, well, I can't lose the attachment, so I have to go along with what they want. I can't be authentic. I can't express how I feel about it, because then I won't be accepted. And then later on, you do this thing, whatever they want to do. Maybe all it is, they want to go drinking on a Saturday night. You didn't feel like that. But you do it anyway, because you want to be accepted by them. And then Sunday morning with your hangover, you're wondering, what the heck did I do that for? Well, you did it because you suppressed your authenticity in order to maintain your attachments. And you did that because you were programmed that way as a kid. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's automatic. It's automatic behavior. So I gave the example last night of my visiting my mother in a nursing home when she was about 78 and I was 54. And I had surgery that morning on one of my knees, just minor surgery, so I had a bit of a limp. My mother was in a nursing home because she had a genetic disease called muscular dystrophy, which meant she couldn't move anymore and she could barely even feed herself, but mentally she was totally with it. And I had a limp because of that surgery, but when I get to her room in a nursing home, my limp disappears and I walk perfectly normally, and I walk perfectly normally out of her room until I shut the door behind me. I didn't want her to worry about me, right? I didn't want her to see my pain. But again, here's the deal. My mother, being 78, had experienced a lot. She'd survived the genocide in Eastern Europe as a Jewish mother when I was 1 year old. She survived the communist dictator's first year was spent as an infant, as a Jewish infant, in Nazi-occupied Budapest, Hungary. So, in space of 3 months between March and June, the Germans killed about close to 500,000 Jews in Hungary. 500,000 people in 3 months. Most of them sent to Auschwitz and the other camps, including my grandparents. As a matter of fact, who was a police captain in Hungary in 1944, because at age 97 he was arrested for participating in the genocide. So my mother survived all that, but the point is that in that first year of my life, with a mother who was very stressed and very depressed and very terrorized, I learned very early that she was already so burdened that if I wanted to maintain my relationship with her, I mustn't add to her stress. So I learned as an infant to suppress my pain, not to cry too much. So I remember being a 5-year-old, a 67-year-old having severe ear pain due to an ear infection, a lot of pain. I'm lying there at night, not crying, just whimpering to myself, waiting till the morning to tell my parents that I ended up having surgery for my ears. But it was programmed into me in my first year of life that I must protect my mother from my pain. Now, that's what showed up 54 years later when I'm walking down the hall of that nursing home. Now, of course, it's very stressful to be always suppressing your pain and not to be asking for help when you need it. That's very stressful. But that's how I lived my life, because that was my programming. I wasn't born like that. No baby's born like that. Babies, when they're in pain, they scream. That's authentic. But in my case, in order to maintain or to protect the attachment relationship, I had to suppress the authenticity. So this is how it happens. It happens early in life. It happens in response to the environment. The implication is that then we become people who are always helping, who are always taking on the tasks, who are afraid of disappointing other people or our own expectations.